Greetings and welcome. Now, 2023 was pretty bonkers, wasn't it? Should we look back on the year? Should we look at the videos and the topics that I was covering over the last year? What else is there to do between Christmas and New Year? I've got my box of Quality Streets I'm going to grab. We've got chocolate fudge. Chocolate fudge, my favourite. Let's take a look back at the year. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of the year and pick some of my favourite videos. I often think if I was doing a YouTube political channel during the 2000s, during the sort of Labour tenure, God, it would be boring, wouldn't it? I'd literally just be doing videos about today, Labour passed education bill, the EU done something about agriculture. Oh, God. It would just be so dull. I mean, literally 1 month worth of Tory news could have filled the whole Labour tenure. So let's pick some of my favourite videos from the year. Going back, Brexiteer comments. That's always a good one to start on.
I haven't put up a video about Brexit for a while. And what I found interesting is how the comments from Brexit supporters have changed. This comment I get every single time I do a video on Brexit, and it always cracks me up. How do you not understand the irony when you're typing that comment out? How do you not understand? I'd love to bloody move to the EU, mate, but you voted away my freedom of movement. Was this one? So basically, it's a Brexit supporter who voted away freedom of movement and is now moaning that he can't freely move in the EU. Brilliant. But one of the overriding comments that I kept seeing over and over again was this one. We haven't even left the EU. I find this absolutely fascinating. Again and again, this seems to be the new argument from Brexit supporters now. So now you're just saying that it never even happened? This is so bizarre. I'd love to get into the psychology of this. Like, is it like Holocaust denial, where you're just like, it wasn't all that bad, it never even happened? Is it along the same lines? Because it's absolutely nuts to me. I mean, we've left the single market, we've left the customs union, we can't trade the same way we did, we no longer have freedom of movement. I mean, that is like 90% of what the European Union is.
Yeah, brilliant. I still get the same comments every single time I do a video about Brexit. Well, if you don't like Brexit, why don't you F off to the EU? They never understand the irony. They never. And this bizarre position that we've never even left the EU. But it's actually evolved now. Like, you get this comment on screen here. It's got F all to do with Brexit and everything to do with a Tory party that wants to rejoin. They want to rejoin now, apparently, the Tories. All along. So this was all just some sort of facade that they were just going through, where they thought they'd go out and then they come back in. I don't know how to break it to you, oldie Janner. The Tories are in power, so if they want to rejoin, they can rejoin. So next video is actually a response to that clip that I put up of Sean Locke from good friend of the channel, ex-Army Paz.
Greetings! So yesterday, good friend of the channel, ex-Army Paz, decided to put a video up about it appears he got quite triggered by the clip that I put up of Sean Locke humorously discussing the topic of over 65s voting in a Brexit referendum. It was a joke. He's a comedian. It appears that I thought it was us lefties that got triggered by jokes, but it appears that it happens on the other side as well. Now, this is just a humorous take on a hypothetical question, where, bearing in mind, 2 million Brexit voters died before Brexit was even enacted. I say it's a hypothetical question where we're just saying, is it fair? Is it fair that these people swayed the vote in Brexit favour and was never even alive when it was finally enacted in 2021? It's a humorous take on a hypothetical question. But anyway, I don't want to go into that anymore. You can check out the video down below. I'll put a link if you want to. The thing is, I've reached out to this guy on numerous occasions about talking about these topics. Coming together as grown-ups, as adults, and discussing these topics of Brexit, of immigration. But every single time he ignores. He replies to my comments, but he ignores it when I bring up getting together and chatting about this. And the reason being is it's much safer for him to just make videos like that, where he can control the narrative, he can take all my points out of context and misconstrue what I say and don't have any rebuttal from myself. It's much safer for him to do that.
Since I've done that video, I still really agree with the points that I made, really. I think it's a genuinely interesting question. Is it fair that the over 60s that are not really going to feel the impact of Brexit were the ones that swayed the vote. You know, people in their 60s, 70s that probably maybe even bought a house in the 90s for 50 grand and now it's worth 400 grand, that aren't really going to see the effects of a loss of 4% of GDP due to Brexit or a hit on the economy. You know, they're comfortable. It's not going to affect them. You know, it's just an interesting question. I think you could also ask the same thing about climate change. If there was a referendum about doing more on climate change, you know, should the over 70s have the same amount of say as the youngsters that are going to have to live on this planet for the next 50, 60, 70 years and deal with climate change? Or should that vote be swayed by people in their 70s, 80s that are probably only going to be around for another 10 years and not really going to see the effects of climate change? The question is the same. I mean, I'd never want to take anyone's vote away, but it's an interesting question to explore, isn't it? That was the main topic of what I wanted to say. Next up, whoa, Marina Purkiss. I remember this. This was a long time ago. So Marina Purkiss on GB News destroying Jacob Rees-Mogg.
I read your fascinating article with Frost in The Telegraph. That's a great person to partner with, by the way.
It is. He's a very great man, very distinguished figure. Responsible, wise, good.
Shoddy deal that now no one likes, by the way. No one's happy with this.
No, he did.
So well done. Great partner.
He got out of the European Union. He did a good negotiation with the EU.
Literally no one is happy with this. Brexiteers are not happy with this deal.
Marina, you don't think the cultural wars really exist? Do you think they're essentially a right-wing...
Oh, no, I think they exist because people like you and your party in government, they desperately need them to exist because what else are you going to win the next election on? Mr. Freedom of Speech here, did you or did you not vote to stop people protesting if it was annoying? But just ask your viewers to think about what really impacts their life. Is it the renaming of a street? Is it, I don't know, some woke policy? Is that really what's harming people? Or is it the concern that they are going to be waiting for an ambulance and dying? Is it the concern that their children are getting a poor education? Is it the concern that we've got the highest energy bills on the planet?
But isn't this why...
But I think what's happening here is you're drawing attention to these things that actually don't impact people's lives. And the reason you're doing that is because otherwise people might just focus on the real grievances in their life, which are basically caused by your government.
Now, I haven't really changed my opinion on this interview. Now, if Marina Purkiss' aim of going on GB News and debating with Jacob Rees-Mogg was to make him look stupid, attack him on every argument and pander to her left-wing audience and put on a show, basically, then she done fantastic. I mean, she absolutely destroyed him on every point, on Brexit, on the ridiculous nature of the culture wars and the fact that the Tories need the culture wars because they can't win the election, on healthcare, on the economy, on anything. She'd done a fantastic job if that was her aim. But if her aim was to try and persuade GB News viewers of her points, then I think she failed dismally. And that's what I said on the video, and that's what I still agree with. I mean, she was obviously trying to persuade GB News viewers of her views because she was trying to explain what Jacob Rees-Mogg means when he wants deregulation, he wants to take away people's workers' rights.
Just again, can I explain to your
within
viewers,
the government.
When Jacob talks about deregulation, that's a big thing, you're all about deregulation. What Jacob is talking about is scaling back your workers' rights.
So that's what she wants, but she just came across, for me, incredibly arrogant. She talked over Jacob Rees-Mogg.
But isn't this why you should stand up for freedom of speech? Because if you attack freedom of speech in some areas, you're then putting the government in control of the agenda. You're deciding politicians should.
She spoke to him in third person.
When Jacob talks about deregulation, that's a big thing, you're all about deregulation. What Jacob is talking about is scaling back.
She done these little condescending looks.
Otherwise, people might just focus on the real grievances in their life, which are basically caused by your government.
But doesn't no platform...
And like I say, for me, that agrees with every single thing that she said, it was incredibly entertaining. It was incredibly entertaining to watch her just destroy Jacob Rees-Mogg on every single point. For left-wing audience and her audience, it was a fantastic bit of entertainment. But for me, you're never going to persuade any GB News viewers of your arguments if you're just condescending, arrogant, and that's all they're going to take from it, because you can do all the explaining that you want of your points, which are valid, but all the time you're being arrogant, you're giving that off that body language, you're talking over Jacob Rees-Mogg. That's all the GB News viewers are going to hear. They're going to ignore any decent points that you're making and just focus on the fact that you're being very arrogant and very condescending. So for me, I'd like to see more debates like this, more reasonable debates. Whenever these things sort of seem to happen, you get the Navarra media folk on GB News sometimes and stuff. It turns into sometimes a condescending battle of ideas, and that never seems to help anyone. Oh God! Next up, I watched GB News for an hour. This video was crazy. I literally had an hour between jobs. I thought, let's stick on GB News. It was like midday, just a random hour, and see what comes up. And I could not believe what absolute garbage shite came up on my screen.
Still stuck in the country. What can, or rather should, be done? Also today, the remarkable, the almost unbelievable story of a, get this, 42...
The crazy, the almost remarkable story that I need to check my book. Get this! This guy is like the worst presenter in the world. He's so terrible. He's so terrible.
2-year-old man posing as a 17-year-old child refugee. Yes, this tattooed, bearded and balding man was placed with children for a week. What's going on?
What's going on? He sounds like that guy from the Sillet Bang adverts. Barry Scott.
Remember me? Barry Scott. Over 1 million women around the UK are at it.
Barry Scott, look at this penny. Good as new. What's going on?
What's going on?
This guy has just like permanently got this like fake, constant exaggeration about everything, isn't it? This over enthusiasm for because he's just such a terrible presenter. He can't read from an auto cue without being enthusiastic all the time. Look at this migrant. Look, Sudan. Serious problem at the moment. So much involved. The refugee crisis, the two warring factions that have got so much power and so much armoury. Serious issue right now. I'm looking forward to hearing GB News' take on the serious situation in Sudan. Give it to me, Tom Hardwood. Give me the facts.
Fighting, of course, continues between rival factions in Sudan, and over the weekend, elite forces evacuated British diplomats and their families. All but one, we heard this morning, who has now been safely relocated. The extraction conducted by the SAS is the most recent in a long line of sensational and successful missions for the elite group. And I want to take you through some of those other sensational memories that we have of the best of British, the SAS. Let's have a look right back to 1944, first of all. If we have it up on the screen, it was called Operation Luyten during the Second World War. It happened right through France, where the SAS worked alongside...
This is not news. I just said we've got a serious problem in Sudan. Let's check out what's going on. Why are these two factions warring in Sudan? What's the effects going to be to refugees? And GB News decided to just talk about ancient SAS operations. This channel, it really is just a wank fest for Britain, isn't it?
Absolutely pivotal in harassing the Germans and...
Which is called a NEO, which is a non-combatant evacuation operation. They're planned for. They're not something that just sort of like gets...
God, now he's just got some ex-SAS bloke on to talk about SAS. How is this helping my knowledge of the situation in Sudan? How am I gaining any education from watching this about the situation in Sudan? It's just a wank fest for Britain, isn't it? That's all it is.
Fair and ready and prepared and had provision in place a long time ago.
Ironically, I love the fact that this guy seems to be the most prepared for audio with all these soundproofing blocks on his wall, and ironically has the shittest audio of anyone that's been on this programme. You should have spent your money on a microphone, mate. All that shit in the background.
And ready and prepared and had provision in place a long time ago.
Because it's the People's Channel.
And we'll be across live to central London as Just Stop Oil protesters bring chaos to the capital.
Chaos! Look at it! Look at it! I have
literally never ever seen more chaos than is in this photo right here.
I literally was so shocked at how much insanity you could get from just one random hour from GBNews on a Tuesday afternoon. Oh, what else we got here then? So, oh, bloody Farage and his Coutts account. Okay. I mean, this was just his emergence back into the political theatre, wasn't it? This is just where it started. Right, let's make up some rubbish about how I got chucked out of a high-end fancy bank account for my political views, when really it was just because he didn't have enough money in the account. And that's been established, and he's gone quiet on the subject ever since. But it injected him back into the political theatre, didn't it? What else we got here? My review of King Charles' coronation. Oh God, so that was just one big, oh God, disgusting display of wealth in a cost of living crisis.
Look at the state of that thing. Look at it. Look at the state of it. How much is that worth? Gold-plated carriage. How much is that worth? And this is the lens that I see through things. As soon as I see something like that, I'm not seeing a gold-plated carrot. I'm seeing like 3 new hospitals. I'm seeing pay rises for NHS staff for the next 10 years.
And of course, who could forget Penny Mordaunt in her flight attendant outfit carrying a sword? She must have been loving life right there. This was my biggest grievance with the coronation. I don't see anything wrong with a bit of pomp and all that sort of stuff. You know, I do like keeping traditions alive. But the just astronomical display of wealth in a cost of living crisis, when people are in such dire poverty right now and people can't pay the bills, just having that gold cart displayed on TV, it just didn't sit right with me at all. Next, we have one of my favourites, grown men losing their shit over a Hispanic Snow White.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of What Ridiculous Nonsense Are People Getting Angry About Today on the internet. Talk TV are obviously incredibly angered by the fact that a Hispanic actress is going to be playing Snow White in the new Disney film. Let's dive into the comments, shall we? This should be fun. Next, they will have a Chinese person playing Hitler. They won't. Remember when Disney was Disney? Yeah, back in the good old days of Disney, you know, when Walt Disney was a known Nazi sympathiser. Back in those good old days. Yes, I will boycott it and other woke films that rewrite history. I don't know how to break this to you, Frank, but Snow White is not an historical character. She's a fictional character. She didn't exist. Snow White, clue is in the name. Nothing to do with race, just injecting diversity. Do you know what's funny? Was she actually that white, Snow White? Have you ever watched the animation recently? She wasn't even actually that white. And ironically, if you look at the actress they're picking to play her, it's a pretty good match. Oh, this whole thing is complete and utter rubbish. I mean, imagine if you didn't even hear anything about this story before and someone just came up to you and go, oh, we're thinking about recasting Snow White. What do you think of this actress? Does she look like Snow White? Yeah, she looks just like her. She looks just like Snow White.
Literally one of my favourite things to do is look at the comments section of people getting mad about stuff that does not affect them in any way, shape or form. I always enjoy that. So this video has ended up quite long, although I am enjoying my quality streak. But I've decided to do it in 2 parts. So that'll be part 1. I will release part 2 tomorrow morning. Enjoy. If you enjoyed the video, click a like. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe up top and you can watch another video in the meantime. Till tomorrow, take care.